Going on, y'all? How's it going? Welcome back to another episode on the Stepback Podcast. I'm here with the boys. What's going on? How y'all doing?
I'm doing fantastic.
Fantastic? Is that like really fantastic?
I can't tell if Mike is frozen or not, bro. You good? Yeah, I'm fantastic, bro. School's almost over.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, you're getting ready for summer. Still working at Wally World this summer?
Of course, bro. Of course.
I was gonna say it as he struggles through tears.
Why are you guys so awkward? Am I the only one that's gonna talk?
No, I'm just asking. Micah's just not saying anything right now. Micah, what's going on?
I woke up a couple hours ago. I don't know.
Okay, no one
I haven't
asked.
done much today.
All right, let's get right into it. Trade deadline, talking about all the trades that went through. So yeah, Micah, kick us off. Biggest trade.
How is Micah gonna kick us off? He doesn't know the trade.
I know what the trades are. Well, I know the way.
No, I literally have like the whole list here.
All right,
Okay. So Aiden, just spill it right now.
Okay, so as you guys can tell, we're pretty well organized today. I'll just read off some of the trades, and then we'll just talk about whether we think it's a big deal or not. I don't know. We didn't really talk about this a whole lot. So the first trade was JaVale McGee went to the Nuggets. Everyone knew he was going to go to a contending team. I think it's kind of a weird pickup for them because Jokic plays like 98% of every single game. So I don't really know what they needed a backup big for, but they didn't really give up much for him. So it doesn't really matter. And then they made another trade. This was the important one. They traded Gary Harris, RJ Hampton, and a first-round pick to get Gary Clark and Aaron Gordon. Do you guys have any thoughts on that trade?
Aaron Gordon is a huge piece, huge pickup in that trade. I think that's I lost my train of thought, but I think that's the most important part of that trade.
Yeah, a lot of the Celtics fans wanted Eric Gordon.
Huh? Didn't a lot of aren't all like the major players on the Magic now gone? Because isn't Vucevic now? Vucevic is a ball now, so then Gordon's gone as well. Like
Vucevic,
do they have any pieces left?
They have.
They still have Jonathan.
He tweeted out a photo
they still
saying,
have Jonathan,
"I'm the captain
right?
now."
That was funny.
Huh?
They still have Jonathan Isaac, right?
Who?
When he gets back from his injury, Jonathan Isaac.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're doing. Obviously,
now,
they're gearing up. Yeah,
their team's a little weird though because they traded for RJ Hampton, right? So they have like he's a young prospect. I liked him when he went to like the Australian League and such.
Mm-hmm.
But they have RJ Hampton as their guards. They have Wesley Iwundu. They have what's his name? Wesley Iwundu,
Markelle Fultz,
Cole Anthony, and then Markelle Fultz too. So they kind of have 4 project guards. So I'm not really sure how that's going to work out. Maybe they're giving up on Markelle after another injury. But yeah, it's kind of weird that they have 4 really young guards that are kind of projects. But yeah, it's a nice pickup for the Nuggets to get Aaron Gordon. He doesn't have to be like a number 1, number 2 option. And bro, I was looking at what their potential lineup could be. They could run Jamal Murray. Who's there? It's not Torrey Craig. It's Will Barton. Will Barton at the 2. They could run Aaron Gordon at the 3. Michael Porter Jr. at the 4 and Jokic at the 5. That is a good starting lineup. 5. So I think that's a good pickup for them. And they didn't have to give up too much for him either.
No, Orlando Magic got Wendell Carter Jr. too as well, right?
Yeah, that was for the Vucevic trade. Vucevic for like one starter
from the Bulls. Yeah, it's just basically another rebuild in Orlando. That's really what it is. Just got rid of all the.
Orlando was constantly doing a whole lot of nothing. Like you'd think with all the picks that they've had over the past couple of years, and with all the players and pieces that they've moved around, they'd put together like a semi-decent team. But like I don't even remember when was the last time they made the playoffs. Anyone know?
Well, I think they've made the playoffs the last like 3 or 4 years. They're always just the 8 seed. They're always the 8 seed.
Yeah, they're
always the 8 or 7 seed. And in classic Magic fashion, they win game 1 and then they lose 4 straight. Every year. They win game 1 and they lose 4 straight.
That's why they're just
so I think it was kind of the right direction for them to take it. If you like Jonathan Isaac, let him develop. He never really had the opportunity, and now that he keeps getting injured, they got a bunch of first round picks. They got some nice pieces. Maybe let Mo Bamba get a chance to get some run. You took him in the lottery. Maybe actually let him have a chance to go out there and play. You picked up Wendell Carter in that trade when you got rid of Vucevic, Otto Porter Jr., and 2 first round picks. So yeah, they had a fire sale. They got a whole bunch of picks, but it was kind of like, bro, what's the point of keeping Vucevic and all these players that are going to get you to an 8th seed?
And then you're just gonna lose
give you
first
bad
round.
picks. You might as well just hit the tank on hit the time on rebuild. So
Yeah.
let's see. So yeah, we'll keep talking about the Magic really quick. Evan Fournier goes to the Celtics. I know a lot of
That's a good
Celtics
pickup.
fans are kind of upset about this because each year they need to get the talk is we need to get a big. They wanted Miles Turner. They messed up the whole situation with Gordon Hayward to get Miles Turner. And then they ended up not having anyone. So they send away Daniel Tice, and they're going to let Robert Williams run it for them. A lot of people are talking about Vucevic. I don't really know how they couldn't have gotten Vucevic. Apparently, Danny Ainge said they wanted to get Vucevic. They just couldn't beat the Bulls' offer, which is confusing to me because they give up Wendell Carter and 2 first-round picks. And the Celtics are stacked with picks and young players. So I feel like you could have given it up. They got Fournier for 2 second-rounders and Jeff Teague, who's going to be waived. So he shot 0 for 10 in his first game. So
that was a good pickup.
Celtics, that's your guy right there. And they said they want to sign him for the foreseeable future as well, which is confusing because you have Kemba Walker, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and you want to sign Evan Fournier. So you're going to sign 4 guard/wings when literally everyone knows the past 5 years all you've needed is a big, and you're going to play 4 of those players at $10+ million a year.
Yeah, no.
I'm pretty sure Marcus Smart's making over $10 million too. So I don't really know what the Celtics are doing, but they got themselves their guy who shot 0 for 10 in the first game. So hey,
as soon as I saw that move, I'm like, it baffled me because it's like you don't need that. Like they don't even need that whatsoever. And like respectfully, like Fournier's not that.
They have Kemba.
Yeah, but why wouldn't they make a move even if the Bulls' offer was so good? Why wouldn't they make like a really good move on a guy like Miles Turner or Vucevic?
There were enough big men at this trade deadline that they could have gone after.
I would have said Turner would have been ideal because he's a better defender, but Vooch was so ideal. Like they were having a fire sell.
Yeah.
Like for he's averaging 25 points per game or whatever. He was an all-star this year and 2 first-round picks and a young piece. Like the Celtics are loaded with young players and they have so many picks. They don't even have room to take them on. Like I'm pretty sure the last 2 years, they're a team that was in the Eastern Conference Final. I'm pretty sure they've brought on like 5 or 6 rookies in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Like you're not going to compete at the highest level
with
if
rookies.
You're going to the Eastern Conference Finals and you have 5 to 6 rookie players that can't get burned because they're too young to have playoff experience. So I don't really know why they couldn't have given up some of the.
I wonder if it means I don't know. I don't know where they stand in the draft order this year, but I wonder if their move is they're going to draft a big guy for their first round pick. But even then, like when you think about it,
yeah, maybe.
Then it's just another rookie though.
Because like
you got to develop into a
because
a solid
they're
NBA
projects because they have Grant Williams and they have Robert Williams and they're both good young players, but it takes time. They have Grant and Robert. But it takes time for them to develop into players that can actually like get it done in the playoffs. But
speaking about taking time, have you guys seen how many first and second round picks the OKC Thunder have over the next 7 years? It was something between
I think it's officially up to like 35 now.
That's insane.
Yeah. Okay. But you guys let's talk about before we get into the rest of them, talk about what the Houston Rockets got for James Harden, which I think is like kind of embarrassing, the package that got back to him. This is where I think that players almost have a little bit too much power and leverage in terms of where they go. That they were looking to trade James Harden to either Philly or the Brooklyn Nets. The Brooklyn Nets were willing to offer Karis LeVert, Jared Allen, and some other young pieces, right? And some picks. And then the Philadelphia 76ers wanted to put in Ben Simmons into a trade with a couple picks. But the reason that the Nets say no, it was reported, is because they wanted, of course, I'm blanking on his name. The young kid out of Kentucky, I think it was. I'll try to find his name in a second. But they wanted that young kid, Tyrese Maxey. They wanted Tyrese Maxey in the deal. So they said no. And instead of getting Ben Simmons, who's a perennial all-star, He's a lockdown defender, got a super bright future. Imagine Ben Simmons in the Rockets system, like a 5-out type of thing. He would thrive in that. There'd be all the space for him to drive, find shooters type of thing. But instead, they go and they get the package from the Nets because Harden said he wanted to go to the Nets. So they complied with what his offer, even though it meant taking a worse deal. And then when they had a chance to bring Jared Allen in, who's a very good young piece, they traded him away in a 3-team deal to go to the Cavs because they wanted to play small ball still, even though James Harden era was over. They wanted to keep Christian Wood at the 4. When I think that Jared Allen, bro, he was getting calls at the deadline. Like they could have taken him on, and if you really didn't want to keep him, even though he's a good young piece, you could have traded him. They just let him go as a salary dump for another team. They got Karis LeVert, and they traded him for Victor Oladipo, who's got almost no trade value because he doesn't want to play anywhere. And they traded Victor Oladipo for Avery Bradley, Kelly Olynyk, and I think it was 2 second-round picks, if I'm not mistaken.
Do you think
like that's got to be the worst haul ever for an MVP caliber player? 4 picks, 4 pick swaps, and Avery Bradley and Kelly Olynyk. I think those picks are going to be like 20 to 30 overall.
Obviously, the Nets won huge on that one, but you mentioned something like players having too much power. I don't know if players in general have too much power, or if it's just James Harden that had that kind of leverage to do that, to make that kind of move. You know what I mean?
Because I would say I was going to say the Anthony Davis situation to the Lakers. He really wanted to go to the Lakers, but the Lakers had a good offer. They gave Brandon Ingram. They gave a top 5 pick, another first-round pick, 2 second-round picks, Brandon Ingram, Josh Hart, Lonzo Ball. That was a good offer. And bro, the Heat didn't even get a solid rotational piece back.
They basically traded their bench for Davis, and it was a solid bench. See, I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me, the whole idea of the player having power, just because it's like when you have a player requesting a trade. I mean, I look back at his past in Houston. Sure, he was the face of Houston for however many years that was. He made the franchise as a whole a lot of money just from all the revenue of his paraphernalia, and then just like the crowds that he brought. Like if people were going to watch Houston games, it was to watch James Harden play. Having said that, like I look back on it, it's like he didn't win them any rings or titles or whatever. I mean, the farthest he got was a Western Conference Finals. Like that was the farthest he got. So like I look at it and it's like Houston doesn't necessarily owe him anything in regards to a good deal. Like he put in his time there. They got what they got out of him. From the looks of it, a relatively good parting. So it's like you don't. I don't know. I don't feel like there was a necessity to be like, oh, you want to go to the Nets, we'll honor your wish. Like, it's like, dude, like if he wants out, you trade him wherever it's going to give you the best deal. So instead, it's like they got rid of their star player for arguably, I mean, a whole lot of.
They got rid of him for 8 picks. And the picks aren't even guaranteed to be top picks. They're going to be like, they got the Nets picks. The Nets are all going to re-sign, most likely. They're going to be like 20th to 30th overall. So
even if there are a couple top picks in there, it's proven time and time again that just because you have a top pick doesn't mean that player's going to live up to that potential. So like,
that's why I think you go and get Ben Simmons if they're offering him. Like why did they not?
Houston lost huge on this one.
Yeah, hands down.
Yeah. Like Houston's just in trouble, bro. Like they got John Wall. He's gonna leave. He was all right. They had Victor Oladipo. They had Christian Wood. They dropped 20 straight games or whatever. They got literally nothing out of Victor Oladipo. Like absolutely nothing. I heard what happened was they were talking to the Heat and they said no, like just add in Duncan Robinson and we'll take him. And they're like no, and they're like their experienced Pat Riley and all them that like. He doesn't want to keep Victor Oladipo. They're not going to re-sign him. So why would I budge if I know you have no leverage?
Right.
And apparently the reason why I was 10 minutes late is because they called the last minute. Like, okay, we'll take your deal. So they got a second round pick.
If Oladipo doesn't want to play anywhere, like has he like said where he'd like to play, or he's just whining about the place?
He wanted to play Miami.
Yeah,
Miami was
the
place he wanted to play.
Okay.
So I mean, at this point in Oladipo's career, he's got to buckle down because we've heard that he was super good before the injury. He went through the injury, then he was like, oh, I don't want to play here. All this drama around him. He's kind of been injury prone still, missing games. Like you're here where you want to be. You're on a contending team. They gave up absolutely nothing for you. It's a contract year. Like go play basketball. The Heat are huge winners at this deadline. They also got Nemanja Bjelica, who from the Sacramento Kings. He's a good rotational piece, can stretch the floor. And then they also got Trevor Ariza from OKC. He's a good 3-and-D guy. And they were supposed to get LaMarcus Aldridge. He was rumored to go there, but like every single player in the entire NBA, they have chosen to go to the Brooklyn Nets. I've heard reported interest that Michael Jordan is considering coming out of retirement to go play with the Brooklyn Nets. The Nets are interested in signing LeBron James in 2021. Like, bro, like the Nets are just going crazy. What do you guys think about the LaMarcus Aldridge pickup?
See, go ahead, Samuel.
No, it's a good pickup. I don't think it's like that Blake Griffin pickup where initially I was like, oh, this is not that big of a deal. And then I realized, okay, it's actually a pretty big deal. And then, but I think with LaMarcus Aldridge, it's a little bit different. He's a solid player. And obviously he's I think a 7-time All-Star. So I still don't think like I don't know. He's not
I'll ask you a question. What do you guys think is the bigger pickup for them? Blake Griffin or LaMarcus Aldridge?
Blake Griffin. I think.
I
don't know, like
for me. Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Well, what I was gonna say is like we're not talking about 6 or 7 years ago. Like if we're talking about the team now, like having a LaMarcus like 6 or 7 years ago where Aldridge was at and where Griffin was at, combine it with Irving, Harden, and KD, like that's a spooky front court right there. Or I meant like starting five. Having said that, we're a couple years removed. I wouldn't go so far as to say Aldridge and Griffin are washed up by any stretch of the imagination. However, they are definitely not like the All-Stars that they were. Having said that, watching some of the game clips of the various how Griffin's been playing so far, I haven't seen any of Aldridge quite yet, our recent clips of him, but like just seeing the team dynamic, it's like whether we like to admit it or not, Griffin may not be an all-star caliber player anymore, but he's still Blake Griffin and he can still perform. And Aldridge is the same way. So to add two guys of that caliber who are going to be like, let's just say they're not starting quality, but they're backups, like then they have the deepest roster in the NBA, in my opinion. So when you look at both of those, I mean, Aldridge did very well in San Antonio. He started to like peter off here at the end of his tenure there, but he still is getting buckets and still doing good. I would argue that Aldridge is probably the bigger of the two pickups, just because I feel like he's been performing a little bit better. Having said that, we haven't seen much of Griffin with the injuries he's had in the last year or so. So I don't know. It's close. Needless to say, if both of those guys play like 75% of what they were when they were all-stars, I think I have the Nets winning, no problem. Like there's no way with that kind of talent, like the Lakers are gonna have their hands full with them. And that's assuming the Lakers.
What I would say is
go ahead.
Yeah, what I was gonna say is I think that Blake Griffin's probably the bigger boom or bust pickup type of thing. Like he could really come in. He might have really fooled us with his athleticism. He saw those couple dunks, he caught a lob. But I think it's the experience that they bring to a championship team. Even if they're just locker room guys, they know what it takes to win championships. They've both been in deep playoff runs. And then it's also like the guys that they're replacing. Like some of the guys that are just like no business being on an NBA roster, but the Nets sold their whole team. So they come in. Yeah. I would say Aldridge is probably the bigger pickup because we know exactly what we're getting from him. He's going to hit the mid-range jumpers. He's a decent like rim protector, surprisingly, for someone of his age. And they want to play him at the 5. So they're really embracing all offense, no defense. So Blake Griffin can come in and give good minutes. They're both probably only going to play like 20 minutes a game. But Aldridge, we know what we're getting from him. So I think it's actually a pretty big pickup for them. But whatever. I don't care. I'm kind of salty as a Lakers fan. But one thing I am happy about, though, is that JJ Redick got traded. The Mavericks, I am on behalf of Mavericks fan. Thank you, Mavericks, for trading for JJ Redick because he was going to get bought out if he didn't trade, and he said he wanted to join the Nets. So thank you for not letting another player go join the Nets. He got traded. Clippers, they got Lou Williams in a deal. Clippers got rid of Lou Williams for Rajon Rondo. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
I think that was just an absolute waste. I mean, Sam, go ahead.
You think so? You think so?
Yeah. Well, I think Rondo, like, watching the past couple of years, I would argue he's pretty much washed up, number one. And number two, he's just a headache.
Playoff Rondo that you're going to – it's playoff Rondo.
Rondo was nice with it.
Lou Williams has been a great
perfect for
player,
that
but
team.
I
The
think
whole
he's
thing that the Clippers have been missing is that point guard that we've said that veteran point guard.
yeah.
And I was terrified this offseason he was going to join the Clippers. And then Atlanta got him. I was like, oh, thank the Lord. And then he gets traded there. I think he's a perfect piece. Like he's one of those mind guys. They're trying to compete with the Lakers. He just worked with all the Lakers. So he's kind of got that inside. He's played with AD for like 4 to 5 years. He knows how to defend him, all that stuff. He knows all the things that AD likes to do. He knows what he's doing. Like, bro, he's averaging like 4 and 3 in the regular season. But in the playoffs, that man is different. Like everything is different in the playoffs. I think it's actually a really slept on pickup for the Clippers, but it does hurt them a little bit, because Lou Williams is a really nice scorer off the bench.
Yeah.
And so what they lost this year was Lou Williams and Montrezl Harrell, which was both kind of their scoring spark plugs off the bench. And they replaced them with Ibaka, I think they got better players experience-wise in Rondo and Ibaka. I don't think they scare me quite as much because they don't have as many scoring threats now. But I think they're kind of a more matured team with Rajon Rondo, maybe Luke Kennard, Marcus Morris, and then you have Ibaka, PG, and Kawhi. I think they could be pretty scary. I think that's actually a pretty good get for the Clippers.
I don't disagree with all of that, and I don't disagree that he's definitely a veteran presence and one who has been to the playoffs time and time and time again. I just like, I don't know, between the fact that Lou Williams was a big contributor off the bench, and I mean, this is just my opinion, but for a guy who could win 6th man of the year, in my books, that means he could start on pretty much any NBA team. Like, if you're winning an award saying you're the best 6th man off, like looking at his stats statistically, you place him on another team than the Clippers. I mean, he's going to start. Like, where was he traded again? Where did was it the Hawks?
Yeah.
He went to the Hawks. Like, he's going to start there. He's not going to be a bench player. So, like, and then
you think so? See, I think Rondo's a great pickup.
But they won't.
Say it again.
No, like Lou Williams is good enough to start for sure, but everyone knows he's that 6-man guy. Just because he's good enough to start doesn't mean they will start him, you know? But this season, he has been struggling, though. Like, if I can find it, see his stats. Of course, it's not the one. Lou Williams. He hasn't been super great this past year.
But
Lou Williams, he's good enough to start. He's not going to start.
I think a guy like Luke Kennard and, like possibly a Terrence Mann are those guys that can replace those points from Lou Williams with the help of, Rajon Rondo, giving them open shots. I think Rondo that's a good trade. It's a solid trade.
I think they caught a dub for their team. I think playoffs,
that's what they needed.
Rondo's better. Overall better player is Lou Williams, but for their team, it was a smarter player on their team.
So it begs the question, and I know we talk about a lot about the Lakers on this podcast, but like it begs the question, what would you have going down with the Lakers Clippers playoff series? Like with Rondo being
it doesn't matter.
Do they stand a chance? Yeah, I was gonna say I don't.
They stand a
that's
chance.
Just biased,
I'm not trying to disrespect them like that. Because even I've said, if there's any year that the Clippers are going to beat the Lakers, it's this year. Because literally last year was all Clippers. Kawhi's the king of LA. All the Clippers fans were there. I haven't seen a single Clippers fan in a year. They're all
That's
Nets
just LA fans,
now.
period, though.
There's three type of fans in the NBA. There's hometown fans, LeBron fans, and the team that has the best chance to beat LeBron. Because there was no Nets fans 2 years ago. There are so many Nets fans now.
Well, of course there's Nets fans.
It's bandwagoning.
Of course there's Nets fans.
That's why
there were no Miami Heat fans before LeBron, but boom, Miami Heat.
Like Clippers fans are not talking anything right now, but I think that's how the Clippers should be. They should be down low, no one talking about them. I think they have a chance, but now that we can talk about it, the Lakers added Andre Drummond into the mix. I don't think the Clippers can beat us at full health when we have Dennis Schroeder, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, LeBron, AD, and that's saying if they get healthy, and then Andre Drummond. Like LeBron's the type of guy that can take a guy like Andre Drummond that people say he doesn't contribute to winning, blah, blah, blah. But he's the type of guy that got Tristan Thompson like a $60 million contract. Like he just makes big look good. But yeah, I think I was just saying I'm biased, but
yeah,
it's a solid pickup. It's nothing.
Whenever
crazy.
you add a bigger player like that, like you said, I wouldn't say he was an all-star this year, but I didn't stretch the imagination. But when you add a big center like that, who does put in the work and who does put up stats, I mean, I'm just thinking about it, but it's like if you wanted to go if they're all healthy and you want your big guys on, like having Andre Drummond, Anthony Davis on the floor, like the size alone, there's very
Anthony
few.
Davis and
Like
Drummond
I'm
is
thinking
nuts,
about
man.
That's.
Oh, I know,
That is
because
nuts.
like I'm thinking about that. Like, let's say they play like a team like the Nuggets. They have Jokic who can take care of one of those guys, but that leaves the other guy free. Like those two guys down low or just like on the court at
And
all.
it gives us another body to guard them with too.
Right. Well, because like Anthony Davis is also a decent shooter, so like it frees up Anthony Davis to be a double threat. You don't know if he's going to be down low with Drummond or if he's going to be up top. Like it gives him the freedom to do both of that rather than of like, okay, you're going to be our solid rebound. Like just thinking about that, I'm like, oh man, like obviously as someone who's not a huge fan of Lakers, when I saw that pickup, I'm like,
That's a good pickup. I still don't think they can
really
compete
got
with
rid
the
of
Nets.
Montrez though. Like I really do like Montrezl Harrell. I do. He's really nice for us, especially with LeBron and AD out. But in the playoffs, everything downsizes, and people can keep hating on me for saying this and making fun of me as a Lakers fan. But I genuinely think Marc Gasol will be a serviceable backup in the playoffs. Just like we said about Rajon Rondo, he's washed, whatever. It's so different in the playoffs. It's a half-court set, and his IQ, like even if you watch him in certain moments, huh?
So you're saying like the trade value you'd get from Harrell would be way more worth it than keeping it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because I think the way that we pretty much knew we were going to get Drummond. So in the playoffs, a lot of times we run AD at the 5 because we can downsize and it works better in the playoffs when we have AD a stretch at the 5. So we can stretch him down. We also have Marc Gasol, who I think can play good 15, 20 minutes of rotational minutes for the Lakers and look really good in playoff time in the half court. And then we also have Andre Drummond. So those are three guys right there. And then where does Montrezl Harrell really get his chance to come in there? And he's not in there for defense. He's in there because he can score the ball as a big man. So I don't really think there's a lot of times that we're going to need Montrez. So look, I would have tried to trade him to the Orlando Magic for Terrence Ross. Like I think that would have been a nicer guy that, hey, if KCP is not hitting his shots, KCP can't be like, oh, no one else is going to take my place because we have no other good shooters. Like Wesley Matthews is trash. If he knew that Terrence Ross was on the bench biting at it, trying to get in the game, like I feel like that would elevate KCP's game. I just think we have too many big guys that need the ball to score for Montrezl Harrell to bring any real value. I would rather just sold him off to Orlando in the fire sale and gotten Terrence Ross.
That's why I think even with this Andre Drummond pickup, the Nets, they're still not going to compete with the Nets. They have too many big guys.
They'll compete. Don't disrespect me like that, Samuel.
No,
don't disrespect the Lakers like that.
I'm a Lakers fan, but
no. Think about this though.
If it's
the Nets have the number 1 offense in the league, right?
Yeah.
The Lakers without Anthony Davis have the number 1 defense in the league. The Lakers
I still don't think.
But think about this. The Lakers have a top 10 offense as well, and the Brooklyn Nets are 26 in defense. The Lakers are elite on both sides. I
don't think they're not elite. They're not elite enough. That's my opinion.
They're elite offensively and defensively.
Bro, Kyrie,
best defensive team
Harden,
in the league
KD,
without AD and
Blake Griffin,
10,
LaMarcus Aldridge. You're telling me I just don't think that they can compete.
You can't. Okay, so if they're in a series,
I mean they'll compete, but I just don't think they're
we'll keep it going in the next episode. But what do you think? We'll keep it going in like we'll start up again. But what do you think that like if they're in a series? Nets versus Lakers finals. How far can the Lakers take them? What's your prediction? 5?
Probably it's gonna be like a 4-2. Maybe
I
6
think
games.
It's
5, 6 games.
So that's competing. 16 series is competing.
Oh, okay.
We're winning it all.
5 games.
We're winning
5 games. I think you're extra biased.
I'm not a Lakers fan, but I'll slip this in. I still think the Lakers will win, and I think they'll win 4-3.
No.
And it's for this reason. They've already been there, so they've already been through that.
Of course, we keep going.
I don't care, Mike. I don't care if the Lakers have been there.
Yeah,
but it doesn't matter, bro.
Here's the thing. You're telling me that as crazy as the Nets are, like that they've got the talent. We're not denying.
Right.
But you're telling me when push comes to shove, and when there's close games, that Harden, Irving, and KD aren't going to be yelling at each other when things are starting to go lopsided.
I never said they weren't. Obviously, they were. They're competing. But I'm saying like they're gonna win 4-1.
I don't think they have the kind of team chemistry.
I give the Lakers 2-game wins.
No, I think it's gonna be 4-3.
Bro, if you
I'm
think,
a huge
if you
LeBron
think the
fan, but
Nets are
no.
gonna win, that's fine. But
They're gonna win that big.
bro, if you think that the Nets are gonna win, if the Nets are gonna win to you, that's fine. But to say that LeBron with Anthony Davis and Andre Drummond cannot compete is wild.
Okay, that's a
LeBron and AD, the best duo in the league.
I was gonna say. So we're
KD, Harden, Kyrie, the best trio.
And bro,
in the
honestly,
league.
I'm gonna say it right now. No, but to say they have no chance is wild.
I never said they had no chance.
What I'll say is watch it. What I'm gonna say is watch out for a similar Clipper situation with the Nets. It's their first season together. Everyone's big on them. And then guess what happened last year with the Clippers in the regular season? They didn't play together. They rested all season.
That's Kawhi and Paul
together,
George.
KD's played 19 games this season.
It doesn't matter if KD's played 1 game in the last 3 years. He's still KD.
No. And here's the thing where I push back though. You're like, well, it's Kawhi and Paul George. Kawhi and Paul George are in that same conversation as a Harden, Irving, and KD.
They just didn't work well together.
I don't
That's why they needed to pick up like Rajon Rondo to get them.
I'm just saying. I think the Nets. Yes, they have a ton of options, but
okay, if I'm being honest, Aiden's dude, I'm not saying that like the Lakers have no chance. That's not what I'm saying.
I'm saying that though. You said they can't compete.
Okay, maybe that was a bit of a stretch, but I'm just saying if in a scenario where the Nets play the Lakers, because in this scenario, I think the Nets have Lakers, but
we are assuming
that's a big stretch. It could be the Heat. Or honestly, I could see the Heat beating the Nets.
No, that's what
I could see a team that's seen like the 76ers beating the Nets.
But
I'm
you're
saying
you're sleeping on Giannis in the Bucks. Honestly, like those three.
Shut up. No. I'm saying
the Bucks are irrelevant, bro.
I'm saying in the scenario where the Nets play the Lakers, I would take the Nets.
And if I'm being honest, I probably do too. But to say we can't compete is wild.
I wouldn't be surprised if I wouldn't be surprised if the series goes 4-1.
Minimum 6-game series.
Minimum.
Wait, Aiden, I didn't know you played for the Lakers.
No. I am the Lakers organization. I am an advocate for them. I am.
No, you're a LeBron advocate. You ain't a Lakers fan.
Yeah.
Dude.
Okay, yeah.
Honestly, I would consider taking the Heat over the what?
If he goes to the Charlotte Hornets tomorrow, I'll be saying we about the Charlotte Hornets.
Exactly, of course, yeah, obviously,
yeah,
because LeBron, right?
Oh,
I'm just saying,
bro. I'm just saying, be careful about the Nets. We've seen this.
You be careful about the Lakers that you don't try to like.
These big super teams are built the first year, and a lot of the superstars rest. They don't play together. The chemistry is not all the way there. The playoffs come, and the teams like the Miami Heat, who have nothing to lose, they're gritty teams, they can surprise the Nets and knock them out. They play good defense.
Right.
They play good
I would
offense.
agree with that. I would agree with that.
Be careful about that. They might not even make it out the East. I would be willing to say I'm more confident about the Lakers making out of the West than I am the Nets making it out of the East. Bold take. I think that the Lakers, fully healthy, have an easier chance to make it out of the West than the Nets do out of the East.
Yeah, and the East has become really stacked in the last year too.
Well, I wouldn't say it's necessarily stacked, but I'd just say
because they got to compete with the Sixers and the
Lakers, huh? The 76ers haven't become more stacked. They're just performing better.
Right.
And the Heat haven't become more stacked. They're just performing. Like, the Heat are
the Heat or something, so they got to be careful.
Yeah,
but,
dude, the Jazz. Are you forgetting about the Jazz, bro?
They
had a slight slump. They had a slight slump, right? But now they're what? 5 in a row?
It's not playoffs. I don't care. It's not playoffs. I don't care. LeBron, AD, and Drummond are not being worried about Donovan Mitchell shooting 40% from the field. I'm not worried.
Well, because Donovan or the Jazz proved that Donovan could pop off for 50 and still lose. Like,
Look, bro,
I guess
all
we'll
I'm
see when
saying
we see.
is the Lakers are on a 2-game winning streak without LeBron, AD, and Jared Dudley.
Okay, that
we
is
beat
two.
the Magic
Jared
without
Dudley
any of
is a
their players,
joke.
and we beat the Cavs without Colin Sexton. We don't even need LeBron. 2-game win streak without Jared Dudley.
You were ridiculous, bro.
2.
You are so blinded by your
Playing the Bucks tonight.
bias for the Lakers.
We're
Yo,
beating the
you
Bucks.
are not beating
We're
the
gonna
Bucks
beat the Bucks
without.
tonight.
You're not-
Andre Drummond's dropping 50 in his debut.
Okay, that's a joke. Let's be real.
we
Okay,
got some
enough
more
enough Lakers.
You're
and
wild.
stuff. Do we have any
the
other
Lakers
takes?
can compete.
Norman Powell. You mentioned Norman Powell last.
I was gonna say, why haven't we talked about
episode.
Norman?
He's
He was
been
the most-
playing. He's been playing really well for the Portland Trailblazers.
Arguably, that's the most slept on pickup. Like, I can't believe we're mentioning him last. Like, he's gonna be.
Well,
I
yeah,
think it was the dumbest
Aiden has to
pickup. I
mention
think
the
it was so
Lakers.
stupid.
Oh,
It was
you're,
so dumb.
so he's an.
I think it was so dumb.
For who?
He's being ridiculous, dude.
Oh, I think it was dumb for the Portland Trailblazers. I think that the Toronto Raptors absolutely fleeced the Trailblazers. Think about this. Norman Powell, I believe, is 28. Gary Trent is either 22 or 23. Norman Powell is better, for sure. But what they need Norman Powell to do on the Blazers is to knock down threes, which is
And that's what he's
Gary
doing.
Trent was there to do.
And he hasn't been doing that
Norman
very well.
Powell is substantially a better player, but in the Portland Trailblazers system, that's all he's going to be there to do. So why? And you know what the GM said? We got a guy that can knock down threes, create his shot, and play good defense in the trade. Gary Trent already did that for you. So why did you trade a guy? Norman Powell is going to probably want $20 million this offseason. Gary Trent probably wanted around $15 million this offseason. Norman Powell is 5 years older. Why would you make that trade?
I think they're playing the short game. I think they're playing the short game. I think they're playing the short game.
Well, because I think they're realizing that.
I'm saying
Lillard only
Norman
has a
Powell.
couple
They needed
years
a
left.
piece like Norman Powell, or they
How old
believe
is
that,
Lillard?
so that they can
Gary
take
Trent
that
is
extra
like
step.
Norman Powell in that role.
You were just
No,
saying
they
last
played the
episode that
same
Norman
role.
Powell was the most underrated player in the league, and now you're mentioning Gary Trent
Yes.
Jr.
Yes, the reason he's the most underrated player in the league is because when he got his opportunity with the Toronto Raptors, he was a 20-point scorer. But Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum are not giving the ball to Norman Powell 20 times a game and saying, go get the ball. They're making him spot up in the corner and knock down threes. They're not utilizing him to his fullest ability. So why trade a young piece like Gary Trent and Rodney Hood, a rotational player, for a guy that you're just going to get to do the exact same job?
You might be right. You might
And
be wrong,
bro,
and that might be a long-term
Dame
mistake
and
for them.
CJ
I
are
think
already a small backcourt. Dame and CJ are already a
Right,
small
yeah, I
backcourt.
know.
Gary Trent was like 5. Norman Powell is 6'3". You got even smaller and worse defensively. I don't understand the trade at all. They got the better player, but he's not going to be any better than Gary Trent is in that situation. Nothing. He's going to do the exact same. He's just going to be more efficient than Gary Trent. I think it was such a waste of a pick. 5 years younger. You had a chance to develop Gary Trent for a cheaper contract.
You're saying Gary Trent 5 years from now will be better than Norman Powell is today, and he'll be more.
I'm not. I like Gary Trent.
Then what is that
but he's
argument
super
then?
inefficient.
You're saying, bruh, if you're saying that Gary Trent Jr. is young, 5 years younger, and he's gonna develop and become this amazing player, and then Mike could just ask you, will he become a better player than Norman Powell in 5 years? I mean, that's the upside that you're making the argument from. That's what you're telling me is that Gary Trent's going to be a better player.
No, I'm just saying you could contract, and by that time he'll be 28 while Norman Powell will be 32. I'm not saying he'll be better, but he has Norman Powell might regress in the next 4 years.
Right.
Like he's got more longevity, and he's gonna do. You're using him for the same job, and then defensively they're trash. So why not take a 6'6" small forward than to go and get a 6'3" small forward when you're already bad defensively? He's a better player, yes, but you're not going to use him for the role that you'd want him. If a team like the Lakers, Norman Powell, when they need a guy to create his own shot, would be great. But you already have CJ and Dame, who are the best in the game at creating a shot. You would rather just have a guy like Gary Trent that only job is to spot up. Norman Powell doesn't want to spot up. He wants the ball to create his own shot. I just don't think he's going to be utilized to his full ability. That's why I didn't like the trade.
We'll see then. We'll see.
He's still the GOAT, though. And because he's on my fantasy team, and his points are gonna be worse.
Oh man.
Okay, so Kyle Lowry stayed in Toronto. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
Surprised but not surprised. It was kind of a toss up for me. I'm like,
It made sense.
I think Toronto decided to keep him just out of like respect.
Well,
I think they just didn't get the what they wanted.
They
said
didn't get what they wanted.
They wanted Taylor Horton Tucker. They wanted Taylor Horton Tucker. They wanted Tyler Hero in one of the deals, and they weren't willing to give the Lakers and the Heat weren't willing to give it up.
I think
I wanted Kyle Lowry, but I was like, bro, they're about to
No.
fleece our whole team. They wanted
No.
Contavious Caldwell Pope, Schroeder, and Taylor Horton Tucker.
Yeah, Kyle Lowry is not worth that. I'm sorry, he's not. He's a great player, but he's not
Lowry
that.
is simply the face of the Raptors, but he definitely is not as good as he once was. And I don't even think he's worth much. Like, yeah, he can pass the ball around, he can get his buckets, but like at the end of the day, I think there was just a level of, honestly, I think it was more of a business mood, and then out of respect, it's like he's been a constant face in Toronto. Everybody in Toronto, whoever is a Raptors fan, loves him to death. And then just strictly speaking business, he does make that franchise a lot of money. It just didn't. It didn't make sense almost in any circumstance to trade him away unless they fleeced another team, and another team was not willing to give up like the ridiculousness that would have been to obtain him.
They definitely wanted to trade him though, because they traded Norman Powell expecting that they were going to sell their assets and go young, but it didn't happen. I really wanted him on the Lakers, but I was like, bro, I would have given up. Honestly, I would have given up Schroeder and KCP, even though that cuts into our depth a little bit.
He's not worth that. I still
wouldn't have felt great about it, but they're like Taylor Horton Tucker too. Although Taylor Horton Tucker is not going to be unreal. He's a rotational piece for us, and he's young. For a guy like Kyle Lowry, who's 36, and he's a free agent too, you might as well just keep Schroeder, a good shooter, and a young piece. But bro, do you see what Schroeder just declined this morning? The Lakers offered him a 4-year, $84 million contract, and he turned it down.
I don't think he's going to get much better elsewhere.
He's probably going to wait till after the season's over.
Right, but he said we offered him 2 years, like $40 million, but he wants a long-term contract, he said, and he wants it to be at least $20 million. And for some reason, the Lakers said okay to that. 40 years, $81 million for Schroeder, and he said no. Like, what is he expecting to get? I think the Lakers need to let him walk after the season.
Yeah,
like you can't pay Schroeder 4 years, $100 mil for Schroeder. You can't do that.
You don't think so?
He's not worth that.
He might not be worth that, but that's what he's given them. He might not be worth that later.
You can find another guy. Bro, Kyle Lowry is going to be a restricted free agent. You could give Kyle Lowry 2 years, $50 million, and I'd feel better than for paying Kyle Lowry 2 more years. I would take Kyle Lowry for 2 years, $50 million over Dennis Schroeder for 4 years, $100 million.
I agree. That's a lot of money spent over the 4 years, but given the fact that Schroeder's a lot younger and is definitely proving himself relatively capable, I don't think that one would be.
I would let him walk. If you're the Lakers, bro, you can attract players to come play there. I think you can find a better, cheaper guard than Dennis Schroeder in the future. Anyways, it's not really important. I just saw it this morning. I was like, bro, 4 years, $21 million.
Yeah, that's
for
crazy.
Schroeder, and you turn it down. I was like, okay.
Question: Is Harden the MVP? And is
that what we're closing with? Because we're probably pushing 50 minutes for this podcast.
Bro, we already did that last week.
We did?
Frick James Harden.
Well, he said he was the MVP, so I'm just saying, like.
Well, just because he said don't mean he is it.
Well, that's why
I don't like James Harden. Screw that guy. He's gonna choke in the playoffs. Lakers are gonna win in 4. That's facts.
You know what's facts? LeBron ain't coming back for another 4 weeks. And then he's going to be trash after that.
And we're winning games without him. We're winning games without him, baby.
He's going to come back trash.
Who are you a fan of, Samuel? Who are you a fan of? So I can roast you.
really like just stirring the pot with you. That's what's really
but you need a team. Put it out there. I can roast Micah on the Bucks. Yeah. Everyone can roast me on the Lakers. And I roast you on it.
As a team, I'm a Trailblazers fan. But nice
trade, buddy. Get rid of Gary Trent Jr. Picking out Norman Powell, buddy. No,
Don't sleep on him. Don't sleep on him. That's all I'm telling you.
Had 11
That's all I'm telling you. That's all I'm telling you is don't sleep on them.
I'm just sitting over here.
I will always root for the Lakers.
MVP, and that's all.
Give me Portland and Lakers. I'll root for the Blazers.
No, you're not a Lakers fan. You know why? Because you don't have faith in us. You don't have faith in the GOAT.
Samuel's
one
a
of our
LeBron
first
fan. He's not a
episodes.
Lakers fan because he has a team.
Dude, let's
but
talk
he's
about
LeBron.
Russ last night. 35, 21, 14. That's a night. That's a
Westbrook.
that's a solid night. And then
Bro, in
Zion back to
fantasy,
back
bro,
games.
Did you say
38,
35?
30
Did you wait? Did you say 35-21?
Yeah.
Yeah, 35, 21, 14.
What?
Yeah.
Bro. And I have
Wow.
to play Mike in the second round of fantasy basketball playoffs. He's got Harden, Westbrook, and Zion, and they're putting up video
Yeah,
game numbers
they're
right
they're
now.
putting
bro.
up 30. The Zion at
Video
39,
game. 21
38.
assists?
That's insane.
Samuel, we're still in last place, right?
I don't care.
Dude, Zion has become ridiculously underrated now.
Completely.
Zion has
Okay,
so
yeah,
much
he's
that's what I've been
he's the
saying
most
since the
underrated
league.
player in the league by far.
And he's arguably one of the best.
Okay,
Like,
Sam, you always ruin it. Sam, you ruin it. You say your take, he's the most underrated player, and then you say by far, and it just ruins your credibility. Like,
Okay.
like you can say he's the most underrated player, but saying by far, now you lost me. I was like, you know what? That might be a respectable take. By far.
By far.
Like, come on, bro. By far.
Oh man.
Might be. I think Norman Powell is one of the most underrated players in the league. Zion, but no one's by far the most underrated. But yeah, he's been
I
nutty.
know.
I mean, he's averaging 26, 7, and 3. Those are similar to LeBron numbers back in the day. I'm just saying.
You said that last week too, bro.
Yeah, well, because I'm a Williamson fan. He's a Duke. I'm a Duke homeboy, except for Kyrie Irving. I disowned him. He's annoying.
Yeah,
I
Duke is looking
have
pretty
very
good in
little.
March Madness though, man. I'm bored of March
Yeah,
Madness
They
now.
didn't even make March Madness.
I just can't watch college basketball.
Why not? It's so
I'll
good.
watch the last 5
It
minutes
was
of college
good, but I'm bored
basketball.
of the tournament now.
Like it's fun, but like
Well,
Bro,
it's
you know
just
what
all the
sucks
major
is we
upsets are
literally-
out.
The
All the
tournament was
major
so
underdogs are
good,
out.
and at the end of the day, we're gonna have 3 1 seeds in the Final Four, probably.
Yeah.
Like we're gonna have Baylor, we're gonna have Gonzaga, and I bet Michigan beat UCLA. Like it actually,
Yeah.
like it was so good, and we're gonna have a 1-1 and a 1-1 and a 2. Like that's so boring at the end of the day.
Yeah.
you think so? Just
I
won't even watch
because
it,
there's
though.
no upsets.
Huh?
You think it's boring just because
Huh?
there's no upsets?
There was a lot of upsets. Like there was the most upsets of all.
I'm
but,
saying like in
down
the Final
stretch,
Four, like the
Yeah,
lower
yeah.
seed teams. Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say, down the stretch, the only one that choked was Illinois. The rest are technically where they're supposed to be. I mean, you're gonna have
Yeah.
Houston, Gonzaga, Michigan, and what's the fourth team?
Baylor.
Yeah. So 3 1s and a 2. I mean, it
I'm
should be some
hoping
good
UCLA
basketball. I
pulls up
still
the
have
upset.
Gonzaga winning. What?
Hopefully UCLA pulls off the upset, but I kind of don't see it happening. But
No.
whatever.
Well, I think that
And-
wraps it up for this episode. Got a lot of beef in this one, a lot of debate, a lot of argument, a lot of hate.
No, it's,
And
it's
we'll end
all
it there.
good.
Thank you for listening to this episode on the Stepback Podcast. If you like, subscribe, smash the like button down low. Helps with the YouTube algorithm.
If you want to start following my modeling career, you can hit up my Instagram page.
At
Oh yeah.